My name is Saleh Saadi, and I'm the director of Filmmakers.
My name is Reem Jubran, and I'm the director of Marche.
Yes, do you guys want to sit on the stage? Do you want to stand?
Yeah, we're chilling.
Okay. We're doing a laid back conversation. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and then we can take some audience questions. But just to start off, I know it's going to be hard because we're talking about two different films. I just want to know, like, where you drew the inspiration for both of your stories, if they come from real life situations, or where you came up with the idea.
Yeah, Medium is based on things from my childhood, things from my imagination, of course. It really was inspired by my relationship with my grandparents, and realizing as a Palestinian American in my late 20s that we have a lot of cyclical, like, cultural habits that are outdated, and that we need to grow to be self-aware of and break them. And so I used Medium to explore that a lot with through the character of Zayd. And not only do we have, like, cyclical habits caused by exile and genocide, but coming from a very, like, patriarchal culture and stuff. So we have a lot of I'm realizing that through this film and through Zayd's character, that this generation, our generation, can break these cycles.
A tough one to follow up.
Well, for me it all started, every Friday, I think. Was it Friday? Sorry, I'm very nervous. It's very weird to talk here in front of you. So yeah, every Friday, my dad would take me to a bakery, and it was like our day. He worked every day basically, so we didn't really have time to see each other. And every Friday he would take me to, like, a specific bakery, and I would buy borregas with smashed potatoes, and it was my favorite pastry. Anyway, so that was, like, the only day that we hung out together, and I really waited for the day. We would, like, fill his car with gas, get borregas, he would get croissants, and I just really waited for the day. And so that was, like, my main inspiration. It all started with that. And I'm always very interested in, like, the generational gap. I see, like, the differences between us and our parents. And, like, I see how we are kind of, like, I relate to some stuff Reem said, and I guess I'm kind of breaking out of the cycle where we can't really talk. I mean, Palestinians have a lot on their plates, and it's really hard to talk about feelings and stuff. Like, that's not a thing we do. Individualism is not a thing. But anyway, it's really hard. It's really hard to talk about feelings. And as men, specifically, it's like you're taught even more not to speak about your feelings. So I wanted to explore everything that I've just said through the film.
Yeah, by chance, all three of the short films dealt with parental relationships, which was not intentional. It's just the way it ended up. Unfortunately, the director of Missing Piece, Nadim, couldn't join us today. He wanted to, but getting a visa in Lebanon right now to the US is very much, not impossible, but very delayed. So he wanted to say hi to everyone. He's very excited that you're all here. Just as a little aside, I sent him a photo of the back of all of your heads earlier. But yeah, it's just really interesting. I feel like this is maybe like the first step in, or one of the early steps in exploring queerness is in exploring like how do you talk to, especially your parents who might have a generational divide where they don't think the same way as you and your friends, and things like that. I don't really have a question here. It's mostly an observation that all three of you ended up making films about parents and their children.
Yeah.
But what I really like is all three were very hopeful. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of acceptance and a lot of learning and a lot of understanding in all three of them, which is part of why I chose them for this festival. Oh, you know, I didn't introduce myself.
Round of applause there.
I forgot that this is the one program I didn't introduce. I'm so sorry. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Yasmina Tawil. I'm the Director of Film Programming at AFMI and the curator of this festival, so sorry. This is my first year doing it for AFMI, so I guess I'm still getting my bearings. But yeah, I don't know if you, I mean, you both touched on this a little bit, but I don't know if there's anything more we want to explore about showing this in film and talking about it.
I think that from what I'm seeing amongst like Palestinian filmmakers, Arab American filmmakers, intergenerational trauma is a really common theme that we're all exploring, and it's really important that we do, especially in how it relates to mental health and anything that's non-conformist if it comes to sexuality, life choices, career choices, all that jazz. And so it's a way of understanding ourselves and like, you know, where we come from, how we got here, because, you know, as part of the diaspora, it's a lot, 7 years to unpack, so, yeah, we can do it through cinema. It's like a trauma healing.
I think I just want to say something, that for me it was really crazy because like, I wrote the script and I felt like it's very tiny and it's very specific and personal. And then I remember, like, when I had my first draft cut, I showed it to my best friend. And I never imagined I would make anyone cry. And then she started crying, and she was like, oh, this is about me and my mother. And then, like, every time I showed it to someone, they're like, oh, this is me and my father, this is me. And, like, it's crazy how we all can relate to, like, a very specific story, and I think it's very nice. And I don't know, it's very strong that we all can relate to stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really big strengths about cinema and why we need to show these diverse stories, because people can learn from them who can't relate to them, and then people who relate to them realize that there's other people like them and that they're not alone in things that they struggle with. Yeah, you were correct, intergenerational trauma is a huge theme in Arab films. I can't tell you the number of films, especially Palestinian and Lebanese, that explore them. Yeah, not all of which I got to program, unfortunately, but yeah, a thing we have to deal with, and it's very therapeutic. I had the same thing, not with your film, but with another film that I saw in programming, where I was like, oh my goodness, this is why my mom is the way she is. This is her and I. Like, yeah. So that's great. Thank you for sharing those stories on the screen. Hopefully, some of you found some comfort in relating to them or learned some stuff.
So my question was, in the movie Mariam, when the father is like, he heard the grandfather saying, like, I can see makeup on you. Does he know, like, from you as like this narrator, does he know that his son is a dancer?
Yes.
He does. Right. I just wanted to know, like, if the character was like oblivious to that fact, or was he knew and he didn't have any reaction?
He's definitely in denial. He's definitely in denial, doesn't know how to communicate, doesn't have a very good relationship with his son. The idea behind the character of the dad is that with his own mother being a dancer, there was a lot of shame because dancing in the Arab world, from as early as like the 20s and even before that, was looked upon as, you know, scandalous and shameful unless you were a celebrity and acting in films. And so, you know, so he kind of represents the first cycle of like that trauma connected to, you know, dancing. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jana. I really enjoyed both of your films. I really also liked that like the queerness and stuff it didn't feel like it was the main part of the story. Was that an intentional decision for both of you to make it, you know, not the main thing? Similar to like when we have an Arab film, like the whole thing is about being Arab, but it's kind of refreshing for it to not be that whole thing, right?
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, as I was acting, it was another thing that was wow. Like, of course, it's a part, like, it's part of our lives, of course. It's just, I don't know, it's there, obviously. But I don't know, like, I wasn't planning for it to be there, kind of popped inside the story. And,
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely, it's not something to tattoo on your forehead because it can apply to anything. In your relationship with your parents or your siblings or your grandparents or your friends, it's just like being a little different. And so I'm glad that you felt that way because, you know, these things don't define us, and we get to dictate what defines us, and this is just, like Zayd's queerness is just one element. I feel like as like a non-male, like, of course I relate to Zayd, you know, and I think that like a lot of us can relate to someone who feels a little different and has to figure it out with family members who aren't, you know, very self-aware or they're dealing with their own baggage that they haven't unpacked yet. So yeah, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. There are a lot of films where it's just very, these things really take up space in the film and it's not very subtly done, I suppose. Yeah.
In both films, there was this wonderfully engaged, the older person and the cross-generational stuff, and you know, the grandfather, and both were grandfathers, I guess, right? And
Father.
but that was wait. So it was the father.
yeah, it was the
It was
first.
the father, okay.
Yeah.
And then in yours it was the grandfather. So the father was the one that did not have a relationship, but the grandfather was the one that had a more positive. Yeah, so you could, yours was the father. So it was, and they were both amazing characters. I really felt them. Is it Yusuf Abuardo in your film?
Yes,
He was just a wonderful actor. I'm going to find out.
it's my idol.
He's your what?
It's my idol. Like,
Yeah,
it was my
he's amazing. I
dream.
want to see everything he did now. And how did this? What was it? How did you recruit him to the film, and what was it like working with him? And it was a question for both of you because there was a real rapport with both of them. It really made the film.
I found his number. A person I worked with, she gave me his number. It was like, I didn't think it was gonna work, but she gave me his number. I was like, I want him for this character. I remember like I had a list, and like he was always the main, like I always wanted to work with him. And while writing the script, I was imagining him as the actor. And I got his number, and then I sent him the script on WhatsApp. I was like, hello, my name is Saleh Saadi, I'm a film student, blah, 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 blah. And then he didn't answer for a whole day, and I was like, oh, of course he's not gonna do this. And then he just sent me one sentence the day after, it was like, أنا معك حبيبي. It means, I'm with you, حبيبي. And yes, it was awesome, it's crazy. Like, up to this day, I can't believe it happened. Like, how did he, I don't know. He told me that he really enjoyed the story and he really liked the script. And I even remember, like, I met with Anan, the actor who played the son, once, and I met with both of them once. We did a rehearsal. And I remember sitting there, they were reading the script, and I was like, listen, we don't have to do more rehearsals. This is it. And they were shocked. I was like, this is it, this is perfect. This is what I wanted. I wanted to cast both of them. They were my first options. And yeah, sometimes, things work out magically.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. Casting the grandfather was not very difficult, but it was because there are, besides him, no other Palestinian American middle-aged male actors in Los Angeles. He was my only choice. And he was amazing. I was so lucky because he's fantastic. And he got it. He's a natural. The really funny part of casting for this film is that the father is my real father. I had no other options. So that was very interesting. And shout out to my sister in the audience. I was using our life stories while directing them. So I learned many lessons in this film. Thanks, Dad. Casting like Arab American cinema and TV and like right now in LA and California is not easy. They're not, and if they are there, they're like, they're not enough, sadly. But it was great working with him, and Mazen, his name is Mazen Siam. He's been in Hollywood for a long time, acting in a variety of films and television, and he immigrated to the U.S. I think when he was like a teenager or in his 20s, so he gets it. He got it like that. So that was fantastic, yeah. Hopefully it'll get easier in the future though to cast, yeah.
Only thing that I see of Palestine is always in the news, like maybe Gaza. I'm a gardener, so when I saw your film and I saw the beautiful landscape, I wanted to know where it was and I guess like the setting and maybe how that was part of the story.
It's near my village. It's called Tawil. It's a little village in northern occupied Palestine. It's really nice to put my village on the map. No one cares about it. That's not wrong. Remember that. Anyway, it's near my village. I really wanted a place that was isolated, and that place means a lot to me because just that whole area is one of my favorite places in the world. And about what you said about hearing stuff on the news and stuff, first of all, I'm happy you're hearing stuff in the news because they always try to censor us. But I wanted to say that it's really important for me to show people that, of course, our lives are hard, blah, 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 yes, we're living in an occupation, but we can also be boring. Palestinians deserve to be boring. We can have normal stories. We can talk about our families and friends, and it's fun to talk about ourselves every once in a while,
Woo! Out of the context of love.
Yes, for sure.